On today's little Carkeology feature, I've got a really special one for you here. A lot of people are going to look at this car and go, what the living heck is that? It's certainly what I said when I first saw it, probably 15 years ago at a VW show here in Southern California. It pulled in, it was primer gray, it was lowered, it had a big turbo motor in it, and it absolutely blew my mind. I got the owner's information and I kept in touch with him over the years. And a couple years back, he and I finally came to an agreement and I brought the car back here to the lab. And it's been a work in progress. I stripped the primer off of it, got it down to at least most of its original finish. But more than anything, I've done a lot of research on the car to find out exactly what it really is. The owner didn't really know. I mean, he knew it was something special and it was something that he held near and dear to his heart. But the history was really a mystery. He had bought it from an auto repair shop down in San Diego where it kind of sat in the back lot. But prior to that, nothing was really known about it. Photos of the car had surfaced of it in probably mid-1980s or so at a show up in Northern California. And at the time, it was red in color. And I certainly found some of that red when I stripped back the paint. Now, when I saw it and started doing research, I had a sneaking suspicion that this would be a trade school car. Now, in Europe, as well as around the world, one of the best ways to learn how to do anything is to do it hands-on. And some of the best schools promote that sort of work. Now, there's a school in Germany, in Kaiserslautern, that is called the Meister School for Handworking. And they were known to build complete cars from design concept up to driving, running vehicles as class projects. And I always thought that maybe, just maybe, this was one of those cars. So I started contacting people at the school. I sent photos all over the place, really tried to spread the word to find out the history. And sure enough, a student at MHK had decided to take on the task. And he and a couple of other students went into the archives of the school and found original photos of this car being built. Now, we figure it was built in around 1960, and there were many students that were involved with it. And those students went on to have long careers in the automotive design and construction business, as well as body shops and things like that. So now I knew the history, and that was a major, major step in trying to figure out what it's all about. Now, the best part about it is that it is completely unique. Everything was hand-built, with the exception of small bolt-on items like door handles, mirrors, headlight rings. Those were all sourced from local vendors there in Germany. Like that's a Hella product. The glass is all from different German manufacturers, either D-Log or Securit. Let's see, I think the side ones here, these are Sigla. Now the sunroof assembly, that's Goldie, which is the same company that provided sunroofs to Volkswagen, as well as Porsche, and even Mercedes. Some of the other little small parts are identifiable, like these vents on the rear deck. These are actually oval window Beetle speaker grills that were adapted here. But as far as the actual construction of the car, the real body, all of it was made by hand by the students. Now, they did start with an existing chassis, and this chassis is from a 1958 VW Karmann Ghia. Then everything was built up from there. So there's these little adapter plates here that were crafted to fit along the side. You look at all of these pieces in here, door jambs, door hinges, even the seats were created for the car specifically by the students. Like if you look real close at these seats, you can see they're asymmetrical. It curves softer here than it does on that side, so you've got a little easier access into the car. It also sets up for a really kind of nice little flow to the interior. The dash is pretty simple, and this was one of the key things that clued me on to being one of the school cars. They did a lot of them where they wrapped the dash with this vinyl material And fortunately, that original material was there. And that was one of the clues that really made me think that might have been from them. Now, the steering wheel on this, that's early Porsche 356. The radio is a modern, or not modern, but a US spec realistic radio. But looking at the dash, it looks like there may have been a modification at one point, because this little cutout here is shaped like the oval window speaker grill. Looking at the construction photos of it, there's actually several changes that were made during the construction of it, and that's always kind of neat to see. These grills here in the back were actually added at some point, probably to provide improved cooling once the car was actually used. The door panels are still the originals and very Porsche-like in design. Looks like those are Beetle handles, but the escutcheons are something completely different. It's really, really a special, interesting car. Now, the body is all steel with the exception of the deck lid and the hood being aluminum. And obviously time and chemicals and who knows what else has really eaten that away. So those definitely need to be redone. Now, let me get this lid open here. There we go. Sorry about that. Inside here, we've got a Porsche 356 engine. Now, this engine dates to about 1959, I believe, or it may even be 1958. And it does run and drive, despite looking barn fresh. But more interestingly, the construction of the body here. You can see that vent along there, the little drip rail there for water to drain. All the interior closing panels and support panels. Everything's got a nice quality construction to it. And it looks like a production car. I mean, look at that stamping along there. But all of that was put into the metal as the car was created by the students of the school. It's just fantastic. Now, the body, while the paint is really kind of coming off of it, I did get the primer down to this original white, but it's failing pretty badly. And you can tell that it was laid on fairly thick. What's really exciting about it, though, is despite the raggedy looks, the car is extremely solid. You look down low and the rocker panels are nice and sound. A couple of little tiny rust holes, but nothing major. Everything is strong and sound. The doors open and close just fine. It's going to be a fairly simple restoration. Now, there has been a little body damage to the front of it. And so some of that is going to need to be worked out. And obviously the hood and the deck lid being aluminum, well, those are pretty rough and they'll probably need to be reskinned. What's interesting looking at the construction photos of the car when it was being built at the school is you could see the seams where they put the car together. They would craft the fender off of the car and then they actually welded it on there and then let it over the seam. I also noticed something very interesting. There's a little round spot right here where there was a hole welded up. And in the construction photos, you can see where they had mounted a bullet type turn signal on the car, and then that was scrapped at some point and filled in. The car also features Porsche brakes. It's got 356 brakes from probably a 60, 61 model, maybe even 59. Those are fully functional. The car actually runs and drives. Now, I've brought this car out to a couple of Porsche events just to rock their world. Nobody knows what it is. It's not really a Porsche. It's not really a Volkswagen. It's really a one-of-a-kind, coach-built or hand-built vehicle. Now, certainly it's got some DNA and some design styling cues that are from Porsche. Maybe the front end looks a bit like a Porsche Abarth. You've got sort of the notchback style roof that you'd see on the notchback Porsches. Obviously, you've got some Porsche parts like taillights and things like that. The back end has a really pleasing look to it. It's a really, really super interesting car that when I first got it, I thought for sure I was going to be the one to dive in and do a full restoration. It's the sort of car that when done will be accepted on the concours lawns, at Porsche racing events, anything like that. It's certainly a high-level car that deserves a high-level restoration, and I've recently figured out, well, I'm probably not the guy to do that restoration. But I feel like I've really had my part in its history. I saw it, I realized it was something special, and then I researched it deeply to figure out exactly what it is, and had great success in proving the history of it, and realizing that it is indeed built by MHK, or the Meister School for Handwerken in Kaiserslautern, Germany. Now, there are other MHK cars out there, but each one is distinctly unique. This one is probably one of the most pleasing as far as body shape and style, and it's also one of very few that exist still in the world today, and I believe it's one of two that are here in the US, the other one being one that's based completely on a Porsche 356 chassis, or it may actually even be early 911, but definitely a rarity, a really exciting dig for us, and a research project that was absolutely dreamy. The excitement when I saw those photos come back of the car being built, I will never forget that. Now it'll be interesting to see what the next chapter for this car is. Where will it go? Who will restore it? And what show will we see it at somewhere down the road? Thanks very much for watching. Keep on digging them up and driving them. Bye-bye.